Let's bring in political consultant Jim Middleton. Jim, good to see you. I interviewed the AMA's WA President Andrew Miller last hour. He was saying that he thinks schools will need to close, and this is all schools, not just ones with confirmed cases. And he was saying he wants to see the government considering doing this sooner rather than later, that the government needs to be on the front foot on that front. This is going to have a huge impact on productivity if you see schools around the country shutting their doors. Somebody needs to look after all these kids.
Yes, that's quite right. Good afternoon to you, Ash. Quite clearly, the preparations that have been taken in Australia so far have shown considerable leadership and considerable certainty, and also getting ahead of the game. But if anyone thinks that this coronavirus epidemic is not going to be replicated in Australia in some form from what we've seen overseas, they're kidding themselves. We've already seen, I think, around Epping in New South Wales, what appears to be emerging some kind of cluster. We've seen these person-to-person transmissions in Victoria now. At some stage, it's quite likely that large institutions, schools and the like are going to have to be closed, whether on an individual or collective basis. It's very hard to know. But yes, in terms of its impact on the economy, it is going to be massive. It's very interesting. I noticed as I was coming here today that there are noticeably far fewer semi-trailers on the road with containers and so on and so forth. Now, this is simply anecdotal, and it is also the day after the Labor Day long weekend in Victoria. But maybe this is a sign of things to come, because it may well be, and it certainly seems to be the case in terms of international shipping traffic, that's gone backwards. We've also seen this morning Qantas taking drastic action. If they're taking 8 out of their 10 A380s out of the air, there's going to be far less commerce for them, not just tourists, but business as well. And at every section and part of the economy is going to be affected in one way or the other.
Absolutely, Jim, and I think everybody around the country has these anecdotes that are telling them just how serious this is. I mean, an online shopping order that arrived for me yesterday didn't have around 15 items that I'd ordered. Things like rice, obviously toilet paper weren't turning up, along with baby nappies, baby wipes, lots of children's food items not turning up. That's worrying, of course, for parents. And you've got the GP clinics. Anyone visiting doctors are hearing from their GPs that they're concerned that they're getting different conflicting levels of advice from state and federal governments. This is a problem, and no wonder we're seeing this anxiety showing up on the stock market as well, where things are so uncertain. Interesting to see, just in the past hour or so, the Australian stock market has started to recover after we heard from Donald Trump, the US president, about what he's planning to do in terms of a stimulus package. And that comes as Scott Morrison is behind closed doors today, ticking off and coming up with a firm package for him to announce to the country as to what needs to happen here. The point being, I guess, that the government needs to act, and act significantly sooner rather than later.
Well, that does appear to be what they intend, listening to Scott Morrison this morning. We are going to see a substantial package of some kind. The indications are somewhere between $5 and $10 billion, at least initially. Yes, very interesting too to notice the impact of this statement from Donald Trump a few hours ago. It does show just how forceful and powerful the President of the United States remains. And when he shows leadership rather than complacency, it can significantly build confidence, not just in the United States, but internationally as well. The idea that there'll be some payroll tax relief and also payments for casual workers in the United States who will be encouraged to self-isolate if they show any signs of symptoms is just what the market wanted to hear. Australia then took its lead from the futures market in the United States, which had recovered a bit. We went down, 4 points at the opening bell, and then, or 4% I should say, and then back up again. I think that, combined with what business has heard from the Prime Minister this morning, is a very important and immediate confidence building measure, particularly for the markets, and let's hope that starts to flow through to the general community as well, as we get to see exactly what it is that the government has in mind. Important too that Industrial Relations Minister Christian Porter met with the unions, business this morning, to talk about that very same idea that the President of the United States has been dealing with, which is what do you do with casual and part-time workers who do not have sick leave entitlements that they can use should they be in a position where they need to self-isolate. The indications out of that meeting is that business, unions and government all agree that in one way or another they will have to be compensated, they will have to be looked after. That is the kind of step that does, you would think, build confidence in the general community.
Absolutely, and we're waiting for that full announcement from the government as to what that stimulus package will be in the next couple of days. Interesting to see too, as you say, Donald Trump taking a very different tone from even just a week ago when he seemed very relaxed about the outbreak. Jim Middleton, always good to hear your views. Appreciate you joining us on Newsday. Thank you.